Transition day is officially over. Well, 3 hours and it's officially over. Trump is out. Biden is in. We have a new president, the 46th president of the United States. And finally, things can go back to normal, right? I doubt it. It's Rob Nelson Live. Woo! Big day. And transition day. I call it transition day. It's inauguration day, but I think it should be renamed transition day. It's no longer inauguration day. I mean, the inaugurations, whatever. This was all about the transition. I mean, would the transition even happen? I mean, would there be a transition? Would it be peaceful? Would Trump leave? This was all before the 6th, guys. This didn't start, with the riots. I mean, people were wondering whether Trump was going to leave for months. I mean, for 2 years, would Trump actually leave? Would he not leave? What if he wasn't reelected? Remember, people have been talking about this forever. This has always been about the transition. So let's just call it transition day from now on. It's like Independence Day is on July 4th. Christmas Day is the 25th. And January 20th, every 4 years, is transition day. Hey, everybody, it's Rob Nelson Live. Thanks for watching. As always, we got our listeners and viewers and interactive out there on Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And you guys, I love it. Dive in with the comments. I'll, hit you back on them and we go back and forth. So big day, as I said. And you all know that. I mean, anybody who watches this show, knows I'm a political guy. And heck, people been waiting for this day forever. I mean, forever. I mean, truthfully, people been waiting. People who voted against Trump for Hillary been waiting for this day for 4 straight years. I mean, since the day Trump took office in 2016, people have been waiting for January 20th, 2020. They've just been waiting, couldn't happen fast enough. I mean, spent 4 years trying to delegitimize his presidency in every way possible. And I know some people on the left will be like, oh, leave it. I'm not going to completely leave that because I think it explains a lot of what happened. I think it explains a lot that we spent 4 years delegitimizing a legitimately elected president who happened to also be a narcissistic egomaniac who hates losing and hates not being liked. So bad combination. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll come back to how I think this all led. We created, to some extent, the monster that became the end of the Trump presidency. But hey, let's start with what's new. Joe Biden gets inaugurated. Now, here's the thing. And remember, everybody's been talking about how this transition was going to go. And at the end of the day, it was like basically drama free. I mean, it was pretty much anticlimactic, although people, not the sex kind, people, and we're not even going to talk about that. Although we are going to talk a little bit about Biden's views on LGBTQ issues. So we were looking for a while, right, at what would happen. And everybody was worried it wouldn't be smooth, that it would be chaotic. And like I said, it was drama-free, almost boring, except for the fact that some people literally probably were crying. I know some people were, and moved by the event. And let's face it, it was less pageantry than it's ever been. It was socially distanced in that whole thing and pretty low key in many ways. But I think it was also low key in some ways because the big event was Trump leaving more than Biden coming in. I mean, that's the crazy thing. This has always been about Trump leaving. It's always been about getting Trump out of office. And a question that I'm going to pose to you all to think about during this show is, what happens with Trump out of office? What happens? I mean, the Wicked Witch is dead. Now what? There's no one left to pick on, although we're going to talk about that because I don't think Democrats are done picking on Trump because he's kept the whole movement going. It's like people who used to watch Fox News and hated it. Like, remember when Bill O'Reilly was on Fox News? And I knew people who would watch Bill O'Reilly every single day and scream at their, screens. I'd be like, why are you watching him? You hate him. You disagree with everything he's saying. But they literally get, home from work and watch Bill O'Reilly. Got to watch Bill O'Reilly so I can yell and scream. Trump is a little like that. Like people hating Trump became a pastime, an obsession that fueled people. It fueled the majority of the mainstream media right to the finish line. I mean, right to the finish line, they couldn't help themselves. I'm sorry. I'm all about like trying to be a little objective. Not that I think the media is objective anymore. I mean, it's a weird day when I can say Fox News is the most objective of all the networks. And it is. No, Cruson, I do understand symbolism, and I made a reference to that. But again, I think if you're on the left of center, it had more. I know people, like I said, who like cried, were so moved by it. So I get the symbolism. I get the symbolism of the transition of power. But again, it was the same symbolism we had 4 years ago and 4 years before that, and I think it really has a lot to do with, with how people feel about who's ever coming in. Because the same, people talked about the pageantry and the pomp and circumstance when Trump came into office, and people on the left were like, flipping it off. There was no sense, Cruz, and people like you in 2016 going, look at the symbolism of coming in. Now, you could argue the symbolism of what Joe Biden said he's going to be about. That's fair. He is claiming to chart a new course of change and unity. But I don't know how well that's going to succeed. I mean, Cruson, you yourself said we may be past the point of unity. I mean, the problem with unity right now is that the victors, the Democrats, want the losers, the Republicans, and the 75 million people who voted for Trump to basically not just say we lost, but say, we're sorry, we regret our sinful ways, and we should be punished, shamed, publicly shamed, censored, whatever else, you got Katie Couric calling for people to be reprogrammed, you've got publishers saying that, that publishers shouldn't publish books from anyone who worked for the Trump administration. I mean, you've literally got, Forbes magazine coming out and saying, if you hire any major Trump people, we will literally publicly say, we don't believe anything your company says. So to say that he's going to call for unity, it's one thing to call for unity. It's another thing to do it. And when you are the victor, it's on you to create that path to unity. So I give Biden credit for saying he wants unity. I think he probably does. I mean, I think most people want unity. But I'm not sure, do we want it enough on either side? Do we want it enough? Do we want it enough to actually do what it takes? It's like in any situation, any relationship, any personal, professional, whatever you want. I don't care, sports. If you want a coming together, and you're like, I want things to be better, but you have to do all the work. You have to make all the changes. You have to, you have to apologize to me, get on bended knee, and let me do and say whatever I want about you, and then we can have unity. You're not going to get it on either side. And right now we have two deeply divided sides. We have one side that felt for 4 years their legitimately elected president was attacked and claimed to be illegitimate by most of the media, by most of the political establishment on the left, by the loser Hillary Clinton, by Nancy Pelosi, and that for 4 years was hammered on. And then now you want them to go, hey, okay, let's do it, guys. Let's work together. On the other hand, you got people on the left, the Democratic side, who feel like at the end of this cycle, Donald Trump did something, and I'm not defending it, something completely abhorrent. He insisted the election was a complete and total fraud. Now, you guys who watch my show know I've said, I'm sure there was fraud. I think there always is. And I think there was probably more fraud than normal because of the widespread mail-in balloting and the lack of safeguards around that. But Trump took that to a level like 1,000, suggesting the entire thing was rigged, that machines were programmed and numbers were switched and tons of ballots everywhere were stuffed and restuffed and hidden and blah, blah, blah. And it was so much corruption and so much blatant, direct, provable fraud, none of which he proved, that a tiny bit they could prove, that it literally should have been a landslide for him. And he hammered that narrative home so hard, that millions and millions of people started to think it might be true. Millions of people who were angry and distrustful of the media, thinking they made everything up before. They made up Russian. They made up a whole hoax about Russia, which again, I don't even going to have the discussion. People who on the left want to say, no, it wasn't made up. It was. I mean, not literally made up, but, the documents that keep coming out that are getting released now, the Justice Department was, forced to release them by the Senate, show that it's pretty clear the FBI knew there wasn't much there. There was really no there. And they pursued it anyway because they wanted to. It was political. Okay. That's a whole nother conversation. But people who thought it was, I may interrupt myself here for a second, Shimori. I want to unite as Americans doesn't mean I concede my beliefs. I don't think anybody should be conceding their beliefs on either side of this debate or this discussion or this cultural divide or this political divide. Nobody has to concede their beliefs, but you can't force the other side to concede their beliefs either. And part of the problem right now is demanding that one side basically reprogram themselves and concede their beliefs. I do think in the left and the right, there's a different approach to this. The left really wants the right, and I'm using generalized terms when I say left and right, okay? People on this side, more left of center, want this side, the right of center, as I said, the Katie Couric thing, we need to deprogram all Trump supporters. They want people to change how they think, and they will go as far as to demand that they be publicly censored, that they be denied jobs, that they be shut down, that their accounts be taken down. And it's a complete double standard. Let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest. There's a whole lot of offensive stuff that gets said and done on the left and social media, and Twitter's not blocking it or banning it. There is still a tweet up. There is still a tweet up from the Ayatollah of Iran from 2018 saying that this position on the state of Israel remains the same. Israel is a cancer on the earth that will be destroyed, must be destroyed, and they will destroy it and wipe it off the planet. That's a tweet. I think that might qualify as violent. I think that might qualify as inciting violence. Wow, suggesting an entire country, an entire country who happens to be predominantly one religion, Jewish, should be wiped off the map, exterminated because they're a cancer. Public leader. That tweet has not been taken down. So that's an extreme example, but let's not pretend it goes both ways. It doesn't. That's fine. I mean, it isn't fine, but okay. What I'm saying is suggesting the right change their views isn't going to happen. They're not going to. They're going to just dig in harder. The right doesn't so much demand that the left change their views. The right tends to dismiss the left's views in a hyperbole about the left, that it's all crazy idiocy. And again, look, we can have different views. The reality is neither extreme has all the answers. Joe Biden's not going to, enter in a new era of mass socialism in America, but he's certainly going to do things that are more liberal and left of center than what a conservative or Republican would have done. No question about it. There will be changes and they will have impacts. And that's short of things like if we get to like court packing or bringing in new states or all that stuff. But there are going to be real changes. And it will change just as Trump made real changes. And every administration does. And it's fair to be on either side of this debate. What's not okay is that we're not okay with somebody being on the other side of the debate. We're not okay letting somebody have a view, letting someone have a view so different than ours that it has to be silenced and censored. My point is merely, if you want unity, you're going to get it. Now, maybe you'd say, I don't want unity. Okay. Maybe on both sides. I know a lot of people on the conservative side who are kind of like, I don't know if I want unity. I don't know. I don't think that's healthy. And I know people on the left who say, well, I want unity, but it's not possible because they're all a bunch of freaking extreme kooks out there, all 75 million of them. So there's no unity with them because they're nuts. It's two sides of the same coin. Everybody can say, I want unity. If nobody's willing to step up and actually make the effort to create that unity, which again means taking on and accepting something you're not comfortable with, we're never going to have it. Cruisen, I'm not defending Trump's actions or attitude or claiming Obama the birther conspiracy, but there was no Russian collusion. It didn't happen. I said 3.5 years ago, it didn't happen because Trump's team couldn't have done it. They found no Russian collusion. The Mueller report spent millions of dollars, 2.5 years, and concluded they couldn't. People said, well, they didn't say it didn't happen. They said they couldn't prove it happened. Okay. And now we've seen documents. Anybody who doubts this, go do your research on the documents that have been released, that have been demanded to be released, that show the FBI files, the internal files. They knew there was not a strong case for collusion. They couldn't find it. They knew they were ramping up the FISA warrants. They knew they were using a dossier that wasn't valid. They knew all kinds of stuff, and they admitted it internally. They all but came out and said, we got nothing here, but let's go after him anyway. And they almost did say that. They knew they didn't have much of a case, and they drilled it home. So I'm not defending Trump, but this is the point about unity. If each side, I'm literally not taking a side here. I want Biden to succeed. I wanted Trump to succeed, but a whole lot of people didn't want Trump to succeed and at any cost wanted to prevent that, including if some of the stuff he was doing might be good for the country. Donald Trump's not a great guy. He's also not the evil empire. I mean, he's been made to be the evil empire, you know, not defending his personality, but from day one, he was hammered as like a monster who stole his position. And claiming Trump's election was illegitimate is no different, except in how the impact it had, because not enough people amplified it, as Trump claiming that this election was illegitimate. They were both lies, and neither side had a right to make those lies. Trump didn't have a right to do it just because they did it to him. I get that that's what's going to happen, and we're going to stay in a cycle. You did it to me, I'm going to do it to you. It's like the Hatfield and McCoys, you know? Well, Mysterious Self 764. I'm not asking, see, this is where we're stuck. I'm not asking Democrats to get on bended knee. I'm not asking anybody to get on bended knee, but I'm also going to ask you, Republicans. 75 million Republicans didn't storm the Capitol and try to lynch the second in command. 5,000 people did. 5,000 people. If you're going to use that logic, then you need to use the logic that suggests that the thousands of people who've come over the border who are rapists and murderers and drug dealers represent the millions who came over who are honest, good, hardworking people. And that you can say that's kind of what Trump implied. But we all know, I know, I'm a big fan of giving people, we'll get to that, a pathway to citizenship who are in this country. The vast majority of immigrants who come over into this country illegally are good people. And they're coming for a job and they're coming to work. And we need to figure out a way to make that work. But they're good people. But there's an element in each single migration that's not. If you're going to equate that, that's the same argument. The 5,000 people who stormed the Capitol. Everyone had a right to go protest, walk down the streets. The 5,000 who stormed it represent all Republicans. That's where we're going to get. Most Republicans, the 99% of Republicans don't support that. You can't equate everybody else with a small number. The same way in the BLM protests, you didn't want to equate the small number of people who are rioting and being violent and looting with the vast majority who are peaceful protesters. Yet they were all there together, and they all had the same ideal. They all wanted the same thing. They were all out there protesting for the same reason for the most part, but a handful, pockets got really violent. Doesn't reflect the whole. And I'm not asking anyone to get on a bended knee. This is the problem. Both sides think, I'm not going to take a bended knee. And both sides, again, Democrats don't need to take a knee at all, but you got to extend an olive branch. And you go, I don't want to extend the olive branch. They should extend it. You won. I think Biden knows that. Biden, here's the interesting thing about Biden. Yeah, listen, Trail Boots, unity is going to be difficult due to fractionalizing inside both parties. And both parties are and that's a great point, because both parties are fractioned, splintered. So unity is not just between the left and the right. The Democrat, how Nancy Pelosi is going to possibly hold her caucus together is beyond me. AOC is a force to be reckoned with. She is the future. And she is not backing down, nor should she. But she is not willing to settle. And the same thing's happening in the Republican Party. You're fracturing these parties. And as they fracture, they're going to have a hard enough time just controlling what's going on inside, much less dealing with the other side, which sucks for most of us Americans out there. Because if you're actually hoping to have a better solution to your future, you might be having to wait a few more years or a few more decades. Let's look for a second at Biden. Okay, guys? I get it. I get how happy people are that he's came in. But I've said from the beginning, Biden could have been anybody. So when people say, oh my God, Biden, it's like the savior has come. He's uniting us. It just makes me go, come on. Biden never rallied up anybody. Biden never in his life was able to mobilize masses of people and get thousands of people out for him. Obama could do that. Clinton could do that. Reagan could even do that. Trump certainly could do that. Biden never brought the masses out to support him. Biden never had huge crowds. Biden was never an enthusiasm giver. Biden, people making it sound like Biden conquered the evil empire with a vision, came in, with this like majestic and articulate vision and bound us all up and gave us a speech to inspire us forever. A speechwriter wrote a speech about unity. Biden ran an election from his basement that a scarecrow could have won because people wanted Trump out. That's okay. You're allowed to vote for the stick. And people who said, I'd vote for a dog over Trump. You're allowed to vote for whatever you want to get rid of the other guy. That's not wrong. But don't turn the guy you put into something he's not. I mean, Kamala Harris barely ranked in the primaries. I'm not saying she's not a deserving person or she hasn't accomplished a lot or she's not articulate. She's not my style. I mean, the way she does things seems a little fake and plasticky to me. It's that little posed thing that I don't like, I hate when people do that, but it's just always bugged me, Again, Trump's style was authentic. It's just annoying as crap also. But Biden's just here's the thing. The savior that's coming in to save the party is the 40-year-long, career politician, 80-year-old white guy who's been in office for like half a century. And that's the saving future for the left. I mean, at some level, you'd be doing yourselves a favor on the left to kind of go, hey, you know what? We just had to get somebody in there to get Trump out. Let's not pretend Biden is something he isn't. He's not some giant unifying savior who's had a massive vision to change the country, and he's finally there to do it. That would have been Bernie Sanders, who, those of you who want to call me a Trump apologist, keep in mind I voted for Bernie the first time around. Bernie Sanders had a vision. Joe Biden didn't have a vision. He just wanted to be president for half his life, and now he finally did. Imagine how Hillary's feeling. Imagine Hillary going, oh my God, that was supposed to be me. Here's Biden, somehow got it. And Kamala Harris, she's now the first female vice president, so the first female to hold office in the presidential ticket. Hillary's like, that was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be there. Hillary's got to be losing sleep like crazy. Let me talk for a second. Civil war is inevitable. Okay, and that's a possibility. And I know people on the left and the right saying that. And I'm not going to say it's not. I don't want to say it's inevitable. We are heading full on toward it. And it will rip us apart. And you know what? Trump is gone. So you can say Trump sowed the seeds. You can say Trump sowed the seeds of this. And I'm not going to argue he did or didn't. He certainly helped sow them. I think the seeds were already being sown before that. And I think the media did just as much to sow those seeds. It did just as much to keep that frenzy going as the drive to discredit him from the left and the Democrats. I don't think that helped. But Trump's to blame for being the most ununifying president in history. But he's gone. He's out. And if he's out, if Trump is out, yeah, the same old career political swamp. Right. We'll talk about that in a second. If Trump is out, so he no longer can be blamed, we'll see what he does. Trump isn't gone. We all know that. He's not gone. But at a certain level now, he's not the one continuing to create the disunity. So if we're heading for a civil war, you can't be like, well, Trump's doing it. I mean, maybe he sowed the seeds of it, but now are we doing it? Are we heading for that civil war? I'll move on to a couple things. I want to talk about Biden a little more. First, I wanted to take something up about Trump leaving office and this impeachment thing, because it's really been on my mind. I'll say it quickly. The Democrats' determination to impeach Trump reflects one of a couple things. Nancy Pelosi's no dummy. She's a genius when it comes to politics. So she didn't do anything accidentally. I don't believe Nancy Pelosi thinks Trump is going to get convicted. She certainly didn't think that before. She did maybe in the last couple days. She impeached him anyway, and she said it was because it was important to get him out of office because he was a threat to America. But let's be honest. She knew he wasn't going to be out of office before the 20th, no matter what they did, no matter how fast they impeached him. One-day snap impeachment still wasn't going to get its one-day snap trial. So she knew he was already going to be out of office. She didn't impeach him to get him out of office. She either impeached him because she just hates him and wanted revenge. Maybe. Not very smart political calculus. Put that as a maybe, pretty low down. She might have done it because she thought it would get the Democratic Party unified. 4 years of unifying have been around getting rid of Trump. Biden's campaign was more about getting rid of Trump than what he was going to do. Yeah, they threw in the things we're going to do, but it was really a lot about getting, I hope you're right. I hope we do avoid the Civil War. That's what I'm trying to figure out how to do here. But Biden's campaign, it was all about the Democrats have united around getting rid of Trump. So maybe keeping on the message of getting rid of Trump keeps them united. Remember, I made the argument, both McConnell, Pelosi, Schumer, all of them, Kevin McCarthy, the leaders in both houses and both parties care most about their power. They care about their institution, Congress, their power, their shared power between Democrats and Republicans. They want more of it for themselves, but they share it than they do about us. Both sides. If you don't believe that, I can't change your mind. But you know what? That is, they have never shown on either side in a long time that their real care is for us, for the well-being of the country. So Nancy might have been doing it Speaker Pelosi, because she thought this would keep people focused on and wound up, keep it as long as possible. We got elections in 2 years. We got to win those too. Or the third reason, she might have done it because she thought this way he can never run for re-election. The problem with that is, for him never to run for re-election, good point. We have enormous dysfunctionality. And my solution, which I'll get to in a second, I have an idea for how to deal with that dysfunctionality. So the last reason could be getting him from running again. But the problem, you guys, is this. The whole idea of impeachment is to remove him from office. He's already left office. When Nixon left office, Nixon was impeached, not tried in the Senate. They never took the trial because he resigned. It would have been like if after he resigned, they still held the trial to convict him. Sort of a moot point. The point of impeachment isn't like going to court for a crime and then we're going to put you in jail. It's to remove you from office. That is the penalty of impeachment. Disagree, monkey arms. I don't think the right is controlled by a violent fringe population. I really don't. The far, far right, the vast majority of the right is not controlled by a violent fringe population. Okay, you two, go at it. So again, the validity of convicting him after he's out of office is, one, it's pointless. Two, I'm not sure it holds up. I'm not sure if you took it to court, which they would, it would hold up. I'm not sure the Supreme Court would. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. They'd be like, he's already out. The point of impeachment is to remove him. The Constitution is very clear. Once he's removed, he can be, while in office, he can be removed and barred from seeking office again. But if he's already left office, he didn't leave office because he was impeached. He left office because his term expired. He was never convicted or tried in the Senate for that. Then you'd be essentially telling a guy who's no longer in office as a private citizen that we're going to not let you run for office again. Doesn't work that way. Wouldn't hold up in the Supreme Court. Plus, I don't think the impeachment trial will go through the Senate and get the votes they need. They need 17. Mitch McConnell hates Trump. Mitch McConnell may vote to convict him. I don't think he will. I think he's saying that because he's trying to, look, Schumer and McConnell, back to my point of how it all works, made a deal. And it's not a secret. They made a deal. McConnell's going to work with them and let their nominations and stuff move through quickly. And Schumer's not going to remove the filibuster for the next 2 years. What does that mean? Well, the filibuster is what allows for, on pieces of legislation, one side to essentially keep arguing and debating and preventing the bill from going to the floor. As a result, to push past the filibuster, you need 60 votes. So on major pieces of legislation, the filibuster comes in and becomes an issue. So that was the trade-off. So I don't think Trump's getting convicted. And if he's not convicted, he certainly can run for re-election. So I'm not sure why Nancy Pelosi is doing it, except that maybe she thinks, and by the way, I'm not shocked if you were to say McConnell wants Trump to be convicted because he doesn't want Trump to run again either, because he's afraid it'll fracture the Republican Party further. What if Trump starts the Patriot Party? Can you imagine? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I get that. It's keep him off the ticket in 2024. But my point is, it's not going to work because I don't think, what we want and what's possible are two different things. I'm going to just be simple with this. The Constitution allows for impeachment for the purpose of removing a president from elected office, and then you can bar him from further serving in office. But if he's already out of office, you can't remove him. So the conviction means nothing. And I don't think you can put on a prevention for him running again after the fact. And I don't think it would hold up in court, especially not a conservative court. It just an originalist court. Don't see it holding up. Don't see them getting the 17 Republican votes either necessary to convict him. So he's not going to not be able to run for office. Get ready, guys. The sequel is coming, and it's not going to be pretty unless we figure out this unity thing. So let me talk for a second about Nancy. Put that back up. I didn't see that one. What Nancy Pelosi wants to do? What? Gray at times. Well, maybe she wants to deem Biden unfit. Look, a lot of people want Kamala to take over. And, I don't know. I'm not going to even speculate on that. I mean, if you watch clips of Biden, I'm going to show you in a minute of older Biden. Like, he's much older and more tired than he used to be. But so what is Biden going to do? And I'll come back to the unity thing. But what is Biden going to do? And who is Biden? Before I leave this note on Biden, and again, I'm not against you being happy Biden's in office. I want Biden to do some good things. I'm sick of not getting anything done in this country that helps us. And there's certain things he's going to try to do that I would support. I'd support his, he's going to make immigration reform a priority. Now, I don't know that it's the smartest move to make that like the first thing you're going to do. I'm not sure and not the first thing, but it's right up there, like the first major legislative thing. I've done 15 executive orders already and stuff today. But I mean, honestly, you want to make immigration like one of your top things? I think right now, most people in this country are like, that's not my priority. My priority is that we're sinking. Like my economy is sunk. My personal economy, the economy around me, everything's going down the tubes. I need you. Monkey arms. No, first of all, monkey arms, you can't possibly believe that that's what motivates these people. And if it is, I don't know. I don't know your backstory, monkey arms. I've tried to figure it out, so I don't know enough about you to know. But if you spend any time in Washington around these people or in these, and I have, as you all know, I worked in the White House for Clinton. I ran a big political group that I started and had senators and, top, government leaders from both parties involved in what I was doing. They don't do the right thing. They do the thing that's most expedient. They always have. If they were going to do the right thing, any one of them, they'd been doing things differently for the last 40 years. They wouldn't have run our country into the position it's in if they would have all been trying to do the right thing. Occasionally, someone does the right thing. Nancy Pelosi's goal isn't to do the right thing, nor Mitch McConnell's. They're not impeaching Trump because it's the right thing. They're impeaching Trump because they think there's some political benefit to do so. And again, he's out of office, so it's not even the right thing anymore. He's already impeached once. 2 impeachment doesn't make a difference. I actually, Rage Plague, agree. I think term limits is one of the only answers. I've called it the national enema, right? We go in and we run a massive campaign to throw every single elected person out of office. Anybody who served more than one term, you're out. And we elect all new people like us. People who don't have political experience, you could have had some, it's fine. I'm just saying, but you can't be in office you're not a person whose goal is just to get to the top and be the next position up. Gavin Newsom just wants to be president, right? Eric Garcetti, mayor of LA, just wants to be governor, Andrew Cuomo probably wants, it's like everyone's just climbing the ladder. Just throw everybody out, clean slate, and put term limits on them. 2 terms, 4 years. In and out, 2 terms, 2 years in Congress, or 1 4-year term. But that would, that's a possibility too. Or 2 2-year terms and you're out. 1 Senate term, 6 years and you're out. And 10 years on the Supreme Court. There's no reason Supreme Court appointments have to be lifetime. It's in the Constitution, but we could change it with an amendment. There's no reason. They have to be on for life. You have to be impartial, so you can't have to come up for re-election. But you're appointed. You could appoint him for 10 years. You're on for 10 years. That's a decade. You can do a lot of damage or good in a decade. But then you're not on for 2 generations. After your 10 years, you move on. That would prevent needing to court pack. That would prevent people feeling like, man, once a president gets in, they can do what Trump did and put 3 young conservative justices on, and that changes the direction of the court for the next 50 years. It shouldn't be that way. Term limits for everything, including the Supreme Court and the presidency. We already have a term limit, which they were smart about. Excuse me, guys. Yeah. Third parties are tough. I mean, no, well, Lincoln wasn't elected technically as a third party, Trail Boots. I mean, right, Lincoln was the Republican nominee, but that was the first time the Republican Party had run a candidate for office, right? Because you had the Whigs and the Tories, right? And the Republican Party had just emerged, and Lincoln was their first candidate. Ironically, people thought Lincoln was a joke. People said it was going to be the end of the Republican Party, which had just started, you know, editorial like the New York Herald or whatever was like, you know, the new Republican Party has just shown what a joke it is, and it's going to collapse on itself, you know, and they thought Lincoln was a buffoon and a goofball. So they were wrong about that. You know, Ross Perot ran a bid as an independent and took 20% of the vote despite dropping out beforehand and then coming back in a week before. He would have taken more than that if not. And I knew Ross Perot. He was someone who supported my independent political campaign a lot. He's a character. He's a character, Ross Perot, a powerful billionaire. Total sidebar story, but it's back in the days when most people didn't have cell phones, and I was on a payphone at Union Station in D.C. And I'd gotten a bunch of pages that Mr. Perot from his assistant that he wanted to talk to me. So I call back on the phone and she puts him right on. And he yells at me because I'd said something on 60 Minutes or Nightline or something I'd been on. And I'd said something about how rich people shouldn't keep their Social Security and how Perot should give his up. And I wasn't saying he wouldn't. I was just using him as an example. And he just went off on me. You know, how dare you like disrespect me? I don't disrespect you in public. Say stuff about me. And it was just this comical thing because I got this line of people behind me wanting to use the payphone. And I'm like, sorry, on the phone with an aggravated billionaire who's screaming at me for what I said on TV. Complete and total sidebar, but fun story. So what is Biden, you guys? Think about this. What is Biden's real vision? And I want to show you a couple things because what I hate is the hypocrisy and the double standards, right? So I'm not sure what Biden really stands for, and I'm not sure what Biden's really going to do. Immigration reform, I'm a fan of. He wants to do a pathway to citizenship for everyone here who's illegal. And he wants immediately a short, much faster path for the dreamer, for the DACA. I've said for years, we need to do this. The dreamers, absolutely, hands down. You know, I was created an advisory board for an inner city public high school in LA. It was almost all, you know, half of the school was dreamers. These kids are hardworking. They've grown up here. They're going to college. They are a piece and part and fabric of America's society, and they deserve to be citizens now. The other illegal, you know, immigrants in the country, the 12 million or so, or 11 million, or whatever number it is, new blood, new ideas, no connections, right? The rest of those people, they are part of our country too. And I've argued for a long time. We're just completely putting our head in the sand, you know, to pretend they're not part of, yes, they shouldn't have come over the border. Fine. They did. That's done. You're not deporting 12 billion people back, nor should you, nor would it be it would be neither morally, economically, or even practically possible. It would be it's not even an option. And it would be a disgusting option. They are part of our society. Everybody knows, you all know somebody. And I don't know, it's because they do work on your property, or they're part of a business you're involved in, or they're a friend of yours, or a family member, or connected to a family member. But they're part of our society, and they're working, and they're productive. Not every single one of them, and neither is every single one of us. They deserve a path to citizenship. I am for that. And it's the right thing to do. And I'm glad he's going to do it. Not sure it's the right thing to do first, but it needs to be done. The problem is you got to tighten the border if you're going to do that, because you can't just make everybody a citizen and then everybody else is going to keep wanting to come in. And that's the problem. You got to have tighter border security if you want to be like, okay, everybody here, we're grandfathering everybody in. You're all good. Not immediately, but there's a path. But then you got to not just let millions more come in, because that'll just keep confounding the problem over and over and over. Monkey arms. You voted for Perot in 92. There you go. Sometime, Monkey Arms, I'll share a story with you that I had with a really funny Perot story. That guy was a character. Paranoid as crap. The guy was so paranoid. So let's look at Biden, guys. Crafty, we have a few things, and we got some fun stuff. First, I got to do the inauguration, just because, and again, okay, some of you, Monkey Arms, one of them, gave me a hard time about having my mask pulled down in my youth town hall, which, by the way, guys, was a super success. It was amazing. This 120 young people and, you know, gathered together, had school board, city council, police department, health services all together to let these kids have a chance to dialogue and talk and create a connection to go forward. And by the way, the kids were so much more civil than the adults. They were so much more, even to talking about how their frustrations with law enforcement and prejudice and systemic bias, so much more respectful. It was unbelievable. But some people frustrated had the mask pulled down. Now, for the record,
Rob, I have that clip if you want.
Which one?
From last week regarding the kids, the teens talking at the town hall.
What clip do you have? I didn't know we had a clip.
Yeah, I could put it up.
Is it long?
No, it's like a minute.
No, it's too long.
Okay.
But you guys should check it out and watch it. It was a good town hall, and some of you did. But we were really socially distanced out, guys. We had a ton of space. And I was, so I was in a big center area, and I really wasn't close to most people. I did walk up to them with a microphone. Everyone else had masks on. The adults pulled their masks down when they talked. I just believe when you're on camera and talking, it changes the dynamic, both for you guys watching, but especially for people in the room. And, I kept my distance. Again, they had their masks on. I hold the mic a distance from them. I'm comfortable with my choice. But I think we have a double standard, honestly, when it comes to this whole thing, because this is just some fun pictures from the Biden inauguration. So let's just show them. Let's pop up those pictures, Crafty. Okay, that one's okay. Fist bumping's fine. Where's her mask? I mean, I don't think they're in the same family. They are president and vice president, but they're real close. She could be spitting right on the president of the United States. She could be a silent carrier, asymptomatic. We just knocked off the president. Okay, next one. Lady Gaga and Obama. I definitely think that is not social distancing. I mean, her eye is right in his ear. I mean, none of those people are socially distanced. A little mob scene there. Okay. A nice photo op. That looks to me like that is Bush and is that Jim Clyburn? It might be Jim Clyburn from I think so. He's got South Carolina on his hat. I think that's Congressman Jim Clyburn, Democrat, Republican Bush. Photo op, nice, giant, like iPhone 12 Max. Faces are really close. All three of them. Oh, I didn't see the woman on the right. That might be his wife. An iPad. Okay, next picture. Bernie, Chuck Schumer, and it looks like Elizabeth Warren on the left. Again, wearing masks, but real close, and they're all old people real close. Okay. We got one more. Definitely.
Michelle.
That's Jill Biden and Kamala Harris and somebody's daughter.
No, I mean, it looks like Michelle Obama.
That's Michelle Obama?
Yeah, it looks like her.
Okay, you're probably right. That's Michelle Obama and Jill Biden. In any case, three people not clearly of the same family, heads on top of each other. My point one, it's just a little fun. Two, guys, it's like we can't be completely crazy. COVID crazy can kill you, You be smart. There's nothing, I'm not picking on them. There's nothing wrong with what they did. I'm picking out only because everybody points out if somebody else does it like conservative, it's horrible. It's not. I'm only pissed at Gavin Newsom because he made everybody else do something else and he went to dinner. I'm not actually mad that he went to dinner. I'm not actually mad that except that it was optics were horrible at a time when no one's working to spend that kind of money. But go to dinner with your friends. But then don't tell everyone they have to keep masks on and keep 6 feet apart constantly or you're all going to die. And nothing wrong with what they did there. It's just the hypocrisy of then saying, like, that's okay. We're not going to note that, but we're going to note it when other people do it. We're going to note it when it's conservatives doing it. Or we're going to note it when people who are doing it and, who aren't like in my wavelength. And again, just a quick sidebar on the numbers. I'm in Florida right now. I've been in California. I go back and forth. I've had this discussion before with you, but the newest numbers again, they kind of reinforce it, right? California and Florida, California locked down completely, Florida wide open. Yes, California has twice the population, but the total number of cases reflect that evenly. There's 1.5 million in Florida, 3 million in California, exactly the same based on the population. The rate per 100,000 of positive cases, exactly the same, right? So the size differential is even. We have the same number here as there. but yet wide open here, closed there. The only difference is the death rate's higher in Florida. And I really believe that was a lot because Florida has the oldest population in the US. And the death rate was higher in the beginning, but now it's changed. So the 7-day average of deaths in California is double the 7-day average of deaths in Florida. They do a 7-day average. Lately, it's been double in California, 50% higher number of positive tests in California and 60% higher hospitalization. So again, something ain't working with a lockdown. So, I'm not saying don't wear masks. I'm saying don't be COVID crazy. Like they did nothing wrong at that inauguration. That was totally fine. And they were masked and they were, for the most part, being fine. Real plague, real quick. How do you think Bernie will do? I don't know. Bernie's going to be the chairman of the finance committee, right? Or the budget committee. It's a budget committee. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sad that Bernie caved in. I wanted Bernie to fight for that nomination. Right now, I'd be happier if Bernie Sanders was president of the United States because I think Bernie had a vision. And whether it's the right vision or not, having a guy with a half-baked vision to me doesn't solve anything. Trump had a vision. Some of you didn't like it. Some people did. Biden doesn't have a vision. No matter how many you want to put a vision on him, he doesn't have one. Here's Biden, okay? Let's look at some things Biden did just quickly. We'll whip through this stuff pretty fast, okay? Some of this is about changing his policy, okay? And some of it's about changing his position. So, Crafty, let's run the clip. This is Biden on gay marriage in the 90s. Check this out. Joe Biden talking about gay marriage.
We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that.
Why do I point that out? One, it's hysterically odd and creepy that that was the avian flu thing, right? So they were the vaccine issue, right? But again, I get that Biden's views have changed. My whole point is people do change, and that's fine. But Biden was very pro-traditional marriage. He voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. Okay? That's who he was. He also was very clear on his position on immigration. This is what he said about immigration and a wall in 2006, 14 years ago. He said, we have those two quotes, Crafty. He said, folks, I voted for a fence. I voted unlike most Democrats, and some of you won't like it. I voted for 700 miles of fence. And then he went on to say, and let me tell you something, folks. People are driving across that border with tons, hear me, tons of everything from byproducts from methamphetamine to cocaine to heroin. And it's all coming up through corrupt Mexico. Gee, that sounds like Donald Trump. Again, I'm glad that he's changed his views on gay marriage. I'm glad that he's changed his views on immigration. I just don't trust what his views really are. Bernie, I trusted. I believe I know what Bernie's views were. Harsh, Cruson, really harsh. That is harsh. I'm just going to let that shade go. I'm pointing out Biden's inconsistencies because, as I just said, you're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. But those are things he said. And you can't deny them because you don't want them to be true. I like someone I can trust and know who they are. Bernie Sanders, I knew who he was. I like that. Whether his ideas were all right or not, he had a vision that was clear. Biden doesn't have a vision. Biden doesn't have a vision. He's got one they've created for him. I don't know if it's his vision. He's whiff-waffled in so many things. He's been in office for 50 years practically. He's an old white guy who was super like a conservative Democrat. How that is the vision of change for a progressive change in this country, I don't see. I don't get it. I don't see how that happens. We need a president with some cojones. I wish him the best too. And again, I do think he's going to be driven by a hard left agenda. I don't know if he'll cave to it or not. The point is he's a little bit of a fair weather thing. My point isn't, look, you can be glad Trump's gone and you can be honest about what Biden is. To pretend Biden is some visionary, and again, the hypocrisy and the double standards are what bother me, I mean, you can go, oh, that was all a long time ago. Okay, fine. He's never really taken it back. He's never really apologized for what he did to Anita Hill he said, oh, the rules wouldn't let me do it. He wrote the rules that were the rules they were using when he was the committee chairman. And, Anita Hill was accusing Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment. You can say it was a different time. Okay. So if Biden gets 1 million passes, why don't you want to give other people passes? How about the last clip I got? A Byrd. This is him eulogizing Senator Byrd. This one always just gets me, this whole Byrd thing. Robert Byrd, who was just a racist. I mean, he wasn't the head of the Ku Klux Klan. He was like a Ku Klux Klan recruiter, but he was in the Ku Klux Klan. And he admitted it, and he said it was wrong. Fine. He was a segregationist. He spent a day filibustering against allowing desegregation. And this is Biden eulogizing him, and when he's vice president.
Bishop, Reverend clergy, Mona and Marjorie, the entire Byrd family. If you didn't already know it, it's pretty clear the incredible esteem your father was held in. I know you've known that your whole life.
And again, I'm not showing these things to be like the hypocrisy of the left. Yeah, and look, and I agree that my point is merely we've got to be consistent. It's not, I get that Biden said things and he's allowed to change. My issue with Biden is he changes a lot and I don't know what he really stands for. The whole thing on crime, right? I have a last little thing I want to show you, just a clip of what it's not a clip, it's a quote of what he said about crime. This is after he passed the crime bill of 94. It provides 53 death penalty offenses, weak as can be, He's saying weak as can be because they were saying they were weak on crime. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill. He's bragging about that. We do everything but hang people for jaywalking in this bill. That's who he was, guys. I can be happy Trump is gone. You can be happy Trump is gone. You can hate Trump. You can be so friggin' happy that he is out. But don't pretend Biden's something he's not. Stop making Biden into some savior. Biden's got to be held to who he was. He did pass the 94 crime bill. He was the co-author of it, the co-sponsor of it. He drove it through. It did create 53 new offenses for which you could get the death penalty. And you know what? You can hate Donald Trump, but what did he do at the last minute? He pardoned a whole lot of people. Now, I get some of those pardons, right? Steve Bannon, the political ones. I'm not defending them, And by the way, I think he pardoned Steve Bannon because I think some of his pardons were political. He pardoned Lil Wayne. He pardoned Kodak Blue or Kodak Black. I mean, why did he pardon Lil Wayne and Kodak Black? He clearly is trying to win a base. I think Trump's pardons, those pardons. I think Kodak Black, Lil Wayne, Kwame Kilpatrick, the mayor of Detroit, who has been in jail for 7 years and a 30-year sentence for corruption, former mayor of Detroit. Michael Happy O'Harris, the former Death Row Records exec who was, in on a conspiracy to murder charge. I think he had a 30-year sentence, served a big chunk of it. Those to me are political, all of them. Trump's pardoning people that he thinks he's going to help him get votes down the road. But the vast majority of Trump's pardons were mostly people, like if you look at the 70, like 30, over half of them are people who were serving life sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. And those sentences were put in place by Joe Biden's crime bill law. I just got a couple names. I have to read them because it's dark out here. But Larry Whitehurst, he got, he's 16 meth of 16 kilos of meth. Okay, that's bad, but doesn't deserve a life sentence. John Knox, he had served 24 years of a life sentence. He was a first-time nonviolent drug offender. He literally got possession of marijuana. He got a life sentence. He's 78 years old now. He's just served 24 years. He was still in. Chris Fergagos, a former Navy vet, 30 years of a life sentence for a nonviolent drug offense. Luis Gonzalez, 27 years. Lavana Rosh, 23 of a 30-year sentence. On and on the list goes of all these people who literally were serving life sentences or 30-year plus sentences, 30 years, 40 years, or life sentences for nonviolent drug offenses, all in office, all in prison because of the 94 crime bill. And what it did with its minimum mandatory sentencing, and it's making all these new things eligible, for longer sentences and for death penalty. I mean, if nothing else, those pardons were good. And those are all Ivanka Trump, but those pardons were needed. Those were good things. Rage Page, I'll address that in a second. So I just want to say, acknowledge the good where it happened. Trump's last act, pardoning those people, leave Bannon out of it, was a good thing. And Biden's responsible for a lot of those people being in there. Not directly, but you want to make people responsible for things that they were part of. He passed the bill that allowed that to happen. Not allowed it, made it have to happen. Minimum mandatory sentences for things. So if you want to hate Trump, that's fine. And if you want to be happy anybody but Trump, I get it. And you want a different direction and you think Biden will lead that direction, even if it's not what he believes, but you want that direction, I get that too. Don't kid yourself. AOC is just like Biden's just a placeholder. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. She's like, get him out. He's an 80-year-old white dude who's never stood for anything I believed in until pretty recently, like when he wanted to get elected president. She's right. She's not saying that publicly, but that's what she's thinking. You know it is. She's right. She's like, this is a placeholder. But don't make him something he's not. And let's see what agenda he really pushes through, because we need somebody who can push a real agenda through. We need someone who can unite and lead. And I'm not sure that's Biden. He's never proven he's a uniter or a leader either. He's just saying the right words. And I'm just saying, hold him accountable for what he stood for. And let's see what he stands for now. Okay, so let's take these quick questions up before we run out of time. So I think we could get a third. Well, so the problem with Germany, the parliamentary systems is different, right? Rage Plague, because we don't have a system that allows for divided power. I mean, we divide power between two parties, right? But you can't have like in Germany, right? Whoever has the majority of parliament is going to have, be the leader of parliament. Then we have an executive in the same way. But I think we can get a third party. And look, I think Trump might start it, and that will fracture the Republican Party forever. But I've said for a long time, we need a genuinely viable, independent third party. And I think we could get it in, because what I think the vast majority of Americans are not way over here or way over here. I think they're here. And I don't think they think of themselves as particularly far right or far left. I don't think they think of themselves as particularly identified with the principles of one party, as much as they have to pick and they feel more like this one than this one. I don't want to say we're a centrist nation, but I'd say 80% of the country actually wants to focus on the same kinds of issues and problems and knows it's going to take compromise. And I think that 80% would be willing to form a new party, because we've so fractured the two we have. What was the other question? Thanks, Rage Plague. Appreciate you following me. I like that. Crafty, there was one other comment about the, it's all about a good conversation. There was another comment. It was about a political thing about term limits. You popped it up a second ago. You don't get career politicians to sign off on that. In the 90s, when I ran my political group Lead or Leave, we got career politicians to sign off on a pledge to cut the deficit in half or quit. So it was the same idea, right? We were like, you're mortgaging our future. You're bankrupting the next generation. I'm Gen X, right? So it's bankrupting me. Now we're bankrupting the millennials, and then we're going to bankrupt Gen Z, right? So like, we spend what we don't have. We live for the short term. Politicians do what's in their best interest, and they're not worried about how much they're going to screw the future. And that's true about the economy, about the environment, about education. I mean, it's all short term. None of it's the long term vision. Few exceptions. But we got people to sign the pledge in which they would pledge to quit if they didn't, or not run for re-election if they didn't, if the goal wasn't met. And Bill Clinton famously told me, we met your goal. It wasn't just because of us, but we were influential in helping them cut the deficit in half. Now it's just through the roof, right? I mean, everybody, Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter who's in office, they just spend. But I don't think you'd get career politicians to sign off on it. But what you could do is you could get a term limits amendment, and you'd need a lot of citizens and state legislatures to vote on it. And I think what I'm saying is, guys, what's happening in this division is we're creating an opportunity for something new to grow out of it. I think, of course, Rage Plague. So many elected officials have had double standards on the mask thing. And I don't know what the pupazis are. I think that's a joke. But look, politicians have double standards on everything.
Rob, we got 60 seconds, by the way.
Okay, let me wrap this up. Jimmy, thanks for the comment. I'll get to that one next week. 60 seconds. Okay, so here's what I want to say, guys. We have an opportunity. No comments right now, Crafty. Let me just say this. We have an opportunity, guys, to use this window, this division, this divide, not just to unify, but to create something new and better. And it's not just what Joe Biden does. I'm saying there is room for a true independent voice. It could be a third party. It could be real changes in the system, changes that actually make things better for the everyday, average, real person American. That's all of us. That's us. And we have a chance to do it. If you don't want to unite with the other side, don't. But let's look outside the box of Democrats, Republicans, and just left, right, and let's look at what we could be creating. Forget about the Trumpisms and Trump, whatever it is, the legacy of Trump, and forget about the left. Let's look at what the future could be if we kind of went toward a center and created something new, a new way of looking at our institutions, a new vision for a new and better America. We can all be part of that, whether you're on the left or the right. So get out of your boxes. Take the boxes down. Take the wall down. And let's figure something better out. We got a shot, and we only get one. And we got a future we all are responsible for making work. Thanks for watching.